Alright guys, so today we're going to take a look at the EKA W12 versus the T12. Two great knives from EKA. Now I previously reviewed the T12, which is the Tonto style, and I broke the tip. So, although I got a lot of good feedback on that video, after, thinking about it and talking to the company about it, we agreed that I did probably abuse the knife a little bit. Now, a Tonto style blade, to me, in my opinion, is really only good for one thing, and that's fighting. So, when I say fighting, obviously that means stabbing. So you would want to have, sorry, I thought I heard a deer over there. So you would want to have stuff jumping all over the place. So when we talk about stabbing, tip has to be mostly just sharp, not necessarily the strongest tip, which is the case for the T12, because I did break it. Now when I broke it, I was stabbing into some really hard wood. I think it was either hickory or oak. And it wasn't the stabbing that broke the tip, it was when I was trying to pry after stabbing into the wood, which typically with any knife maker is going to be defined as abuse. Now, there are blades out there that have really heavy duty tips, and as a reviewer, obviously I want to assess the performance of a knife, but it's also good to know limits. So I don't intentionally go out there and try to abuse any product that I review, but I do want to know limits, just in case my life were to depend on it. They make the W12, which I'm going to show you today. Thicker tip, and it's their Bushcraft version of this knife. When you're bushcrafting, personally, I'm going to take a bushcraft knife into areas where I'm not necessarily going to take an axe. I'm probably going to take a bushcraft knife and a saw. That being said, I'm going to use the saw to process down larger limbs and logs, and then I'm going to use the bushcraft blade to baton down and further process that wood. And in the process of batoning, I would use the tip of the blade to split my smaller kindling, and split and split and split, and further process that wood down. So I think it is important in a bushcraft blade to have a tip that's capable for stabbing, but also some lightweight prying. Now again, does that mean go out there and try to pry a door open with your average bushcrafter knife? No. But in a wood situation where you're processing wood, I think it is important to be able to lightly pry. When I say the tip broke on the Tonto, a very small piece of the tip broke. I've seen almost every knife out there, including some of the knives that are considered, super heavy duty knives, like the Becker BK2, snap in half. It can happen. It can happen with any knife. Are they going to warranty a knife, or is any maker going to warranty a knife when there's just blatant abuse? Probably not. But after speaking to the company and the US distributor, we agreed that with a Tonto style tip, heavy prying may result in a tip breakage. Now, does that render the knife useless? No, not at all. You can continue to stab with that knife, continue to cut with that knife, continue to do pretty much anything you can do with a knife with a piece of the tip being gone. It's much better the tip break than you have a large chip in the blade or a large roll in the blade. So did I expect it to happen? No. But did it happen? Yes. And has it happened on other knives that I've had? Of course. You can break any blade out there. Ask any other reviewer on YouTube and they'll tell you that they've probably broken a knife or two. testing the limits of the blade, which is what I personally do with gear that I recommend to you, is I want to test certain limits, whether it be temperature, durability, strength, depends on the item. So just to give you guys another idea of how tough these blades are, I'm going to pound it into this half-dead tree here.
You're gonna have to count your losses. Easily attracted, but dangerous to get distracted. I'm drawing circles, don't you know? Take the seed that wants to go to a garden.
Alright guys, so I certainly don't recommend doing that with any knife. All I'm trying to prove to myself is that the blade is extremely durable, and just because that little bitty tip broke off, which would happen on pretty much any blade tip of that size, the knife itself is not rendered useless, and the blade itself and the steel is still very tough and very durable. And that's after yanking it out of the tree. There's not even any rolls or chips or anything on the forward edge of that Tonto. Alright, so this is the W12 and this is the T12. You can see they're really similar. Same handle, different sheath. You can see that this Tonto style has the Tonto pressed into the sheath, and then this other one has the regular blade pressed into the sheath. They both come with the ferrocerium rod and striker, and then the only other difference is on the edges or on the butt end. The Bushcraft style has a more flat pommel for crushing nuts and things like that, and the Tonto style has a more defensive pommel, breaking glass and using it defensively as well. They both come with the ferrocerium rod with knife sharpener at the top built into the sheath, so that's a nice feature. Taking these both out of the sheath, again, very similar handles. This one comes in the wood grain. I believe you can get the T12 in orange or black, and you can see it has that Tonto style blade there. Now looking at the tips, you can see that the W12 has a much sturdier tip. So again, when I was prying with this Tonto, it's pretty clear to see how the tip could break. You can see there that just the very tip, right where it starts to get a little bit more width to it, broke off. I'll show you the two side to side here. Just the very tip of it broke off. Now, is that a big deal? Not really. This could definitely be sharpened out on a grinder and brought back to a tip, but even as is, it's still going to stab and pry really well, as long as you're not getting to the point where you're abusing the blade. Now the only other difference is the T12 has serrations whereas the W12 does not. Other features of the sheath, besides the built-in ferro rod and sharpener, you have a leather retention clip up top, and then a very nice pocket clip, which also is removable if you wanted to remove it. But it stays on your hip very well. When I put it on my hip, it's very hard to pull it off without, you know, manually loosening that up with your fingers. So it batons really nicely. Now where I would use the tip would be to split down the smaller stuff by just working it in there and twisting. And that's really where I want my tip to come into play. Just to get this stuff into smaller sizes. Just stabbing a little bit into this downed pine. Now again, stabbing and prying with a knife is not recommended and not warranted by most knife manufacturers, but on this W12 the tip is quite a bit thicker, so I'm plenty sure that it can handle some light prying and things that, you know, you'd want to do with a bushcraft type knife. Now it's held up to everything I've put it through today. Some batoning, some chopping, some prying, some carving, and there's nothing wrong with the blade at all. No rolls, no chips. The tip is perfect. So that's definitely a good thing. It's very comfortable. The handle's very comfortable. It's got some jimping up top here, which I didn't really find myself using too much. I was just mainly just holding it just with a full forefinger grip there. Comes out a little bit at the end. You can see it's got the flat pommel on the Bushcraft version. And the only thing I did notice is it got, you know, it's getting a little bit dull. So you can just sharpen it using the ferro rod. Now you can take this out and do it, but it's probably not the safest because you might slip and go across your finger. And anytime I'm in the woods, I really try to stay the most cautious I can. So what I found is you can just leave it right there in the sheath and just run it through that way. And that way you stay really far away from your fingers. One kind of annoying thing is this retention strap here. When I have it on my side, you know, if you don't get it all the way out of the way, it's kind of hard to draw the knife. It's also kind of hard to put the knife back in with that retention strap there. Now I would take it off. However, if you don't have it, you do run the risk of losing your knife. So it doesn't have the best retention in the sheath. So you would want to secure it with this little leather strap here so that it doesn't come out. But I do find that a little bit annoying. Alright guys, so I'm going to head back in. It's getting pretty dark and the wind's picked up quite a bit. So I did quite a fair amount of testing with the EKA W12 and T12, and satisfied overall. Certainly with the W12, a more bushcraft style knife that I would use more. If you're into fighting and things like that, you want to have a self-defensive weapon, go for the T12. Just beware of that tip. And anytime you have a tip that, you know, it goes to a pretty fine point on the end, you run the risk of snapping it off. But as I showed you, it doesn't render the knife useless. Still very capable in the field. But if you're more into bushcrafting, check out the W12. It's a great knife, very comfortable in the hand. The sheath is nice. The ferrule rod and the sharpener is really nice. I did notice the blade got a little bit dull. A couple strokes through the sharpener and sharpened it right back up. You know, I prefer to use like a little field sharpening stone, but it works well, and it fits right in the sheath, so definitely handy to have. I don't like the leather button retention strap. It seems to get in the way, but without it you can run the risk of losing the knife. So I may put some shot cord or something on through the lanyard hole, and you know, maybe put a rivet or something that I can fasten it down to when it's in the sheath. I also think it's pretty cool that even after talking to the company and us agreeing that it was probably a little bit of abuse, they sent me some more and said, hey, have at it again. A company that backs its products up like that is a win in my book. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys have told me that you kind of like this vlog style, walking in the woods when I'm doing reviews. So I got a lot of reviews to get out yet, but I'm going to definitely put in some how-tos along with it, because you guys have said you want to see some how-tos. If there's anything ever you guys want to see, let me know down in the comments and I'll try to throw it in. I hope you guys like this video. Please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you share it to all your friends on social media, Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. And as always guys, subscribe for more videos.